we have come to the judgment of the ones you see behind us, and the winner is Social Justice Traveling Theatres.
As we make the presentation, I'll just give a few words about theater and activists who have inspired us, most of our lives. And as we grew up, we heard about the Mau Mau songs. And we hear that those are the songs that kept them going for all the years that they were in the forest. And around the world, liberation songs and liberation work has been inspired. Liberation work has been inspired by songs and theater and drama because it energizes people. And most recently, I think those of us who grew up just before were there during the South Africa struggle and before 1994, we know how those
siku ya Saturday iliyopita nikaona hakuna mtu anakujia maziwa, nikachukua maziwa nikapeleka kwao, nikakuta kumefungwa. Sasa mimi nikarudi na maziwa yangu na nikasema ile siku watakuja wataniongelesha. Mimi kujua kifo ya hii mama neiba yangu, nimeitwa na msichana alikuanga akiitwa Karo alikuanga rafiki ya huyu mama. Sasa wakati tumeenda kwake na mama mwingine, tukakuta inzi zimejaa kwa mlango.
Kulingana na ile mwili iko pale chini, juu haijafungwa, inaonekana ni kuuawa, juu kulionekana visu zilikuwa na damu. Mmoja ana kichwa, mwenye kwa pande ile ya chini ya mandizi ana kichwa.
Ile ripoti tuko naye, tuko na uhakika ya kwamba tutapata mwenye amefanya hiyo kitendo na tutachukua hatua ile ya sheria. Tumepata visu viwili hapo na tunaamini ya kwamba kwa sababu mwili imefura hatuwezi dhibitisha kwa sahihi.
Davis and Shortleaf Group CEO George Mbugua says the development of sustainable water resources is a critical global priority, expressing commitment to nursing various technologies, particularly in renewable energy, to provide affordable and sustainable solutions to achieve this objective. The firm will provide technical design support, deliver equipment, and offer support to ensure the project's long-term success. As per the Memorandum of Understanding, Davis and Shortleaf will assess project proposals submitted by Rotary District 9212 to ascertain their sustainability for collaboration. Moreover, it will identify water and energy projects for potential adoption by Rotary clubs in Kenya. The partners say many previously implemented projects have failed due to poor design and the lack of maintenance. This collaboration aims to ensure the sustainability of projects for the greater benefit and improvement of communities' lives.
The church is pushing to have its own registrar of Christian organizations that will work with leaders of the umbrella bodies to develop guidelines for self-regulation. The clergy from church umbrella bodies has accused the ad hoc committee of the Senate on the proliferation of religious organizations of usurping its powers by directing how religious organizations should be regulated.
The voices during the public participation were loud and clear. The voices says self-regulation and not state regulation. We don't want the hand of state in matters church. We are well able to advance our cause.
In Narok, 10 suspects are being held at Narok police station after they were found in possession of bang and illicit brew. The suspects were arrested following an operation conducted last night in Narok town to flush out criminals who have been terrorizing Narok residents. Narok Central Deputy County Commissioner Kennedy Mwang'ombe says the operation will continue especially this Christmas season.
Tumekuwa kwa ushirika na wananchi na siku ya leo waliweza kutupatia information kwamba kuna sehemu ambayo inaitwa Kambi Shetani ambako kumekuwa na wines and spirit shops ambazo hazijakuwa licensed na watu wanakusanyika wakiiba na wakikunywa pombe na vuta bangi na baadaye wao ndio wamekuwa kivizia watu katika sehemu ambayo inaitwa Kings Bridge pale.
And a dark cloud has engulfed Chemudu village, Chesumei constituency in Nandi County after the bodies of two children aged 6 and 4 were discovered in a hole inside a bush. The parents of the two children are said to have been engaging in constant domestic violence. Chesumei Sub-County Commissioner Frederick Ogola says the two are now held at Mosoriot Police Station as investigations continue.
Msichana amekuwa akihangaika kila mahali akiomba usaidizi kwa serikali. Kwanza vile wiki moja ijaisha hivi alikuwa anatoka Chemundu akiomba msaada akisema huyu mtu amenipata na watoto wangu wawili akanisalia mmoja na hataki wale wengine wenye walimpata nayo. Sasa anampenda huyu wake. Sasa alikuwa anaomba wamseparate na huyu mtu akae na watoto wake ajichungie watoto wake. Akienda kila mahali huyu mtu anamfuata na pita tu.
Finally, the family of a 3-year-old boy is crying for justice following the death of their son, who was electrocuted in Nairobi's Kayole estate. Leon Maingi was playing with other children in their compound when he was electrocuted by an laminated cable hanging on the balcony. His aunt Brenda says she took him to a nearby hospital, but she was referred to Mama Lucy Hospital, where the boy was pronounced dead. The body is now lying at Mama Lucy Hospital mortuary awaiting post-mortem as the matter is being handled by the Department of Criminal Investigations from Jiru Sub-County.
Mingi sana. Kwa tungeomba tu venye tunaweza saidiwa tu huyu mtoto apate haki. Juu ni stima tu iko hivyo kwa plot iko haijafunikwa iko pale kwa corridor. So watoto wakicheza tu mtoto akakanyanga hiyo waya.
Tilio Marco for Prime Edition.
At the University of Nairobi, the closing ceremony of China Media Group Animation Exhibition Tour is underway. The animation meant to see the world through children's innocent perspective.
Altogether, we've received 171 entries since the launch of the competition. These include 34 by African children. The young contestants presented China and Africa's friendship through their own eyes.
While awarding the top storytellers, the president of Kenya Editors Guild, Zubeida Kananu, said that the animation is a way of promoting cooperation between China and Africa.
The economic ties showcased in the animation tour echo the spirit of bilateral trade agreements. The project not only entertains but also serves as an investment in shared cultural experiences, fostering a deeper understanding of our respective traditions and narratives.
Although children are benefiting from the China-Africa Friendship and Cooperation, Silas Nuoha, editor-in-chief of the News Agency of Nigeria, recommended that the animations be translated into African local languages for more children to be reached.
We can cast it in our local languages so that African children will understand. Many of them in rural areas hardly understand some of the animation.
Moses Ndungu, founder of Children's Garden Home and School, called for the establishment of a permanent program that will expose our young children to beneficial experiences.
Where our children can be exposed to new skills, techniques, and experiences that can be beneficial to both countries.
As we celebrate 60 years of diplomatic relation between China and Kenya, this animation being made by these children are not only meant for fun, but as a way to promote peace and unity between Africa and China. Paulina Simiu for Prime Edition, Nairobi.
According to the TIFA report, majority of Kenyans at 87% reduced their spending owing to the current economic hardships in the country. Areas which Kenyans have cut spending include transport, clothing and entertainment at 15%, 10% and 8% respectively. Kenyans at the same time gave the Kenya Kwanza administration a thumbs up on its performance on protecting forests, supporting agriculture, combating pollution and encouraging tourism and investments. On the other hand, the government, according to the survey, scored less in reducing the donor financial dependence, corruption, creating jobs and reducing the cost of living.
Of all Kenyans, the one challenge that they could mention, 39% said cost of living, a different 15% said corruption, because they could only give one answer to this question. So it's not that all Kenyans think that only 39% of all Kenyans think that inflation is a problem.
The survey has also labelled Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi as the most travelled CS outside the country, making 16 foreign trips on the period under review. Others are CS Ababu Namwamba and Salim Vuria at 13 and 12 trips respectively. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, according to the survey, made no foreign trips but is the most travelled CS internally after visiting 41 counties. The survey was conducted between 25th November to 7th December and involved 3,009 respondents. Doreen Arange for Prime Edition.
Very important. Yeah, but again,
the parliamentary probe on irregular transfer of KBC frequencies to a private company, GoTV, continued with the Public Investment Committee on Social Services, Administration and Agriculture inviting Communication Authority to justify transfer of frequencies to a private entity.
there was a company called TMTV. Yes. It was digital mobile television. I can't remember but it was TMTV. They started in this market with mobile television.
Those are services.
Yes.
Owned by who?
Excuse me?
TMTV.
Yes.
It's owned by who?
I need to check because.
But it's submitted here. It's in the submission here.
So they were offering mobile TV, and because mobile TV was not sustainable, that service was discontinued, and then we now GoTV went into now terrestrial, digital terrestrial.
Remember, you are on oath.
Yes.
Please don't be part of the fraud. You are a regulator.
Yes.
They also had another product called DMTV, which you have mentioned here. Can you tell us who is this DMTV? Because you already licensed the person.
Yeah.
Whom did you license?
According to the Communication Authority, KBC entered partnership with an international private company, Malt Choice Africa Holdings, to form Malt Choice Kenya Limited Company, with KBC holding 40% shares of the local private company. KBC later got into a joint venture with Malt Choice Kenya Limited to form GoTV Kenya Limited, which KBC had no shares. MPs questioned how the Communication Authority agreed to transfer some KBC TV frequencies to GoTV, which had no relationship with KBC.
So my issue is that this DMTV transformed into GoTV. That transition or transformation, does it mean KBC zero? Because in that transformation, eventually you come across GoTV, where KBC is not a shareholder. So what is this venture? What is the joint venture about? It's you who transferred the frequencies, and that's why you're in that box today. Unless you are owning up that you are an accomplice to this fraud that we are looking for.
The committee resolved to invite the Acting Director General and the Chairman Communication Authority over the controversial transfer of frequencies.
Because what is obvious, what is appearing is KBC has lost 40%. It is not able to earn any dividends from GoTV, neither is it earning anything from MultChoice Kenya, yet you are the regulator and you are part of the system that maybe we would want to find out what you are doing in terms of handling KBC to lose all the assets that they have lost.
The directors of GoTV Kenya are expected before the Watchdog Committee on Thursday to explain how KBC was set to benefit from the joint venture with MultChoice Kenya. Gishoki Washira, Prime Edition, Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
According to e-commerce database ECDB, Kenya's e-commerce market is expected to register a compounded annual growth rate of 3.7% between 2023 and 2027, with market value of about 400 billion shillings. This growth is pegged on, among others, enabling policies and strategies.
It is worth noting that the e-commerce strategy seeks to leverage Kenya's strengths in that frontier while addressing the bottlenecks and challenges hindering e-commerce in this country. If well harnessed, e-commerce will greatly accelerate economic and social development through economic diversification, job creation, and increased trade.
Currently, e-commerce has been identified as a catalyst for growth of Kenya's economy, including its ability to reach a global market.
To spur both domestic and international trade through enhanced product range, standards, and ability of Kenyan producers to respond to export market requirements. This will, in turn, help to address the country's persistent global trade balance deficit.
A mixture of both shops that are still present in the city and that keep cities alive, and also e-commerce, which just increases the reach out of those shops beyond their cities into the whole country or even into the whole region.
These sentiments were made during the launch of the National E-commerce Strategy, which has been hailed as a model for collaborations between the private sector and the government.
I think that because the e-commerce cuts across many sectors, it's not the job of the trade ministry, it's not just the job of the ICT ministry or the industry ministry or just the private sector, the central bank, and everyone has to come together.
The strategy, among others, aims at ensuring that startups have an easy market entry, while those in practice sustain their participation in e-commerce.
For years, many Kenyans have been wary about the e-commerce ecosystem in Kenya, citing some of the challenges they get when buying goods online. But finally, this national e-commerce strategy might end these challenges. Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
The national government has resumed the construction of the meter gauge rail linking the standard gauge terminus in Miritini, Jomvu constituency to the Mombasa Central Station within the CBD. The 9.1 billion shillings project that kicked off in September last year halted following lack of funds to compensate affected persons.
My ministry has given the money that was needed through Kenya Railways to the National Land Commission, and I'm here today to confirm and announce that this project will continue. It had stopped at 65%, so we are not so far off.
Last week, the county government of Mombasa further obtained a temporary injunction citing non-conformity to urban planning laws.
We don't object any projects, either by a private developer or a state corporations.
What we want is people to adhere to the planning laws. So we need to know where will you drain water, traffic control, where will cars come in and go out. Because after the project, people will go away and they will leave us in Mombasa. The people of Mombasa need to see the benefits of this project.
Transport PS Mohammed Dagar, who toured the construction site in Mombasa, cautioned against frustrating efforts to complete the project.
There will be no entity or person who is going to frustrate a government project. And when I talk about frustration, I'm talking about disruption, I am talking about assault of government officers, and I am talking about assault of contractors. There is no instructions from government or from the court that warrants the frustrations if a project has fully complied with the law and the due process has been followed.
The project is expected to have 4 stopovers as government embarks on rehabilitation works of Central Station.
We are going to have a mini station in Changamwe East. We are going to have a mini station in Changamwe West. We are going to have another station in Miritini, and we are also going to have another station in Shimanzi. As government, we are also going to give very concessional rates to this.
Juni Karisambele from Mombasa County.
We recently visited China to get a better understanding of the country's poverty alleviation in rural areas. First stop is Turpan in the Xinjiang Autonomous Region. It is the hottest place in China, surrounded by deserts and mountains. Logically, access to water in such an area will be a major problem, but not to the Chinese. Many years ago, residents used their ingenuity to make the place habitable and productive by tapping water from melting ice from the nearby mountains. Using improvised equipment, they dug canals forming one of China's greatest underground water channels connected to these mountains to source for their water. It is a marvel that turned the arid desert area of northwest China into an oasis that today nourishes locals. The canal runs over 5,000 kilometers, directing volumes of water to homes and farms, making the area China's greatest grape-growing area and gradually putting it on a path to becoming a key wine-producing hub.
Karizi is the mother river of the people of all ethnic groups in Turpan. It has a history of nearly 2,000 years. It is comparable to the Great Wall and the Beijing-Hangzhou Grand Canal and is known as one of the major water conservancy projects in ancient China along the Dujiangyan and Lingkou.
The canal leads to this green and highly cultivated area called Grape Valley, which also gets its water out of melted snow from the nearby Tian Shan Mountains.
The sounds of running water you hear now comes from Bujluk River. We have 14 surface runoffs in Turpan city. There are 2 square kilometers of surface runoff, and we have protected them.
Water from this valley assists farmers to irrigate their lands and grow different kinds of fruits such as figs, pomegranates, peaches, melons, as well as cotton and wheat, besides grapes, which are most common.
There are more than 1,000 carries in Turpan city. Turpan's grapes, cantaloupe and other crops are irrigated by Tian Shan snow water. Grape Valley is a natural path in the Flame Mountains. The river valley is named Grape Valley because it is rich in grapes.
In any house
or markets, everywhere, you are sure to see different varieties of grapes, which is favorite for the locals. The pomegranate fruit in China and Southeast Asia. Poverty reduction and rural revitalization programs by the Chinese government have ensured the waterways have been expanded to guarantee water is available for large-scale farming. Karez Canal has boosted the local people's confidence in achieving renewal by developing and growing their own local fruit industries. Beatrice Getonyang-Etich, Prime Edition.
The recent power outages in the country has seen an uproar from Kenyans, both on and offline. There have been 3 power outages in the country for the last 3 months, paralyzing critical sectors like hospitals and the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. This recent event has attracted the attention of the cabinet.
Morning. Thank you for bringing us to this cabinet.
And on Wednesday, President William Ruto convened a cabinet meeting where one of the key agendas was to find a solution to the perennial countrywide blackouts. The Commander-in-Chief has now directed Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir to handle the power failures comprehensively. The Cabinet resolved that the transmission line system should be unbundled so that power failure in one part does not affect the entire country. To deal with the overloading of transmission lines that causes outages, the Bomet-Narok line will be built with Kenya shillings 66 billion from the Africa Development Bank. The line, which was funded in 2016, has not been built due to legal disputes. Additionally, a 200 billion Kenya shillings Kengen solar power project at the Seven Forks Dam will provide a safeguard against power failure. The 42-megawatt project has a huge battery storage, and when power fails, the stored energy kicks in. The Cabinet was informed that negotiations on the Kenya-European Union Economic Partnership Agreement has been completed. This is expected to be signed next week. The agreement giving Kenya more access to the European Union market will also be taken to Parliament for ratification. And with the Meteorological Department predicting the El Nino rains returning this week to many parts of Kenya after a 2-week break, the government says it will introduce more measures to mitigate the effects of the floods. So far, over 100 people have lost their lives while thousands have been displaced. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
Bunge FC kept alive their hopes of clinching this year's Interparliamentary Games men's football title after drawing 1-1 with South Sudan. Kenya came into the match at the backdrop of a 5-0 thrashing of East Africa Legislative Assembly IALA in their second match. The George Sunguti coach side took the first lead through Kenya MP David Ochieng's strike, but South Sudan equalized after Donato Joseph Paul Chant slotted home a penalty. Kenya has so far played 3 matches, won 1, lost 1 and drew 1.
Our team niko na injury mingi sana katika team. Na ukiangalia ma defenders wangu karibu wote, some of them wanacheza pia na injury. Kama captain wangu alikuwa outside, na pia kumekuwa na ugonjwa kidogo affect my players.
But the second thing that is also affecting us is the time they have placed for playing. As a team, we usually play from very early, from 6 a.m. up to 8 a.m. We are not quite used to playing in the, hot sun like they've made us play.
The 13th edition of the Games has brought together East Africa Community member states battling for honors in a total of 13 sporting disciplines. The Games are scheduled to culminate on 18th to the 14th editions and to be held in Kenya.
This Games is actually strengthening the community. And the whole idea of the East African community has always been to promote unity and togetherness. And the idea and essence of this game is to strengthen the unity to deepen the cooperation and to widen the engagement between our various parliaments and our peoples.
After their 1-1 draw against South Sudan, Bunge FC now switches its attention to their forthcoming match against host Rwanda, hoping to maintain their good form. The winner of the round-robin matches will be crowned the 2023 Iyala Games Football Men Champions. Reporting for Channel 1 Sports from Kigali Pele Stadium in Rwanda, I'm Bernard Okumu.
Weeks after the National Dialogue Committee unveiled its final report that was also presented to Parliament, the Centre for Multi-Party Democracy, a lobby group, now wants the government and the political players to publicize and make accessible the report, saying many Kenyans are still in the dark on its contents.
To enhance outreach and impact, political parties, civil society organizations, private sector, religious organizations and other stakeholders should be involved in the dissemination. A country that is talking is a country that is in peace. We need that dialogue to continue.
Led by their chairperson, former Nyeri woman representative Priscilla Nyokabi, the lobby group said the report lacks a clear roadmap on how it should be implemented, leaving Kenyans at crossroads.
I think clearly we need an implementation team to come and take the concerns, the views, leaders through a national process. And because dialogue is what stops demonstrations. If you stop having dialogue, like now the peace we have had is because we've been in dialogue.
The group also urged for faster enactment to settle the 2/3 gender rule stalemate that has existed for over a decade.
We call on the working group to make robust proposals and beseech Parliament to expedite the enactment of legislation that clearly outlines mechanisms for achieving the 2/3 gender principle. Such legislation should provide concrete steps, timelines and penalties for non-compliance.
The lobby group, however, warned that failure to follow through the report could lead to reoccurrence of protests in the future.
And we urge our media not to allow this report to die. Remember, if this national dialogue report dies, there is a risk of demonstrations.
Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
The Nairobi-based rally driver achieved the feat after securing his maiden FIA Africa Rally Championship in Tanzania last month. This marks Karan's second award, following his first in October 2022, the same year he clinched his maiden Kenya National Rally Championship title. To win the November award, Karan beat several other nominees in other disciplines, including Kenya highest-ranked golfer Michael Karanga of Kiambu Golf Club and 58-year-old athlete Priscilla Biwott, who won gold medal in women 5,000 meter at the 14th Africa Masters Athletic Championship in Pretoria, South Africa.
But quite hungry for some more championship wins, continue to keep Kenya on the Africa Rally Championship leaderboard for at least the next 2 years, if not more. So I would like to think I'm young, hopefully not too old to continue winning. So yeah, we managed to secure the championship win, and hopefully going into next year we'll be able to continue this winning streak.
For the November victory, Karan Patel was awarded an LG washing machine valued 100,000 shillings. King Orimwangi for Prime Edition Sports.
Fodder shortage in Kenya and the Greater Horn of Africa region has led to the loss of more than 8 million livestock, according to an African Union Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources report. The shortage is attributed to the adverse effects of climate change that has led to unpredictable weather patterns and prolonged drought seasons. As a result, the project seeks to equip farmers with skills to improve livestock productivity and build climate change resilience.
As soon as the farmers are able to conserve the feed, and that can be done either in form of silage, and the farmers have been shown how to make the silage, or they conserve the feed in form of hay. It means those farmers, you have feed to continue feeding the animals even during periods of feed scarcity, dry periods, drought periods, and that's how they are going to maintain their animals in productive state.
Additionally, they were also taught to harness the power of technology to tailor their feeds to their livestock preferences.
We usually recommend when the farmers are making those feed rations, they mix 70% grass with 30% legume. And that brings the farmer very close to what we can call total mixed ration. It's not exactly total mixed ration, but it's very close, over 90% close to what we call total mixed rations are fully balanced.
To fast-track adoption of improved forage seed varieties, the project has established a forage seed innovation fund aimed at increasing livestock productivity as well as rangeland restoration.
In total, through the 71 demo plots, we've been able to train about 6,500 farmers. And like I indicated when we went to Taita, very recently an adoption study was done, and we are actually registering up to 40% level of adoption, which is quite significant compared to the previous studies that have been done or other technologies that have been taken out to the farming communities in Kenya.
The 53 million shilling project is being funded by the European Union over a 3-year period, with farmers gaining expertise on, among others, harvesting practices, weeding management, and conservation of feed material. Nduta Mukami for Prime Edition.
The president, who presided over the start of the Diaspora Investment Conference, which opened in Nairobi, said he'll not renege on plans to privatize non-profit-making state corporations and public entities. The head of state said privatization will ease the country's economic burden and end the culture of endlessly bailing out struggling entities.
What they are doing can be done by the private sector. In fact, sell some of these companies to the private sector. The private sector will give us more value out of them. Yeah? Some of them divest. But the report has been here now 10 years because it's a very difficult decision to make. But I will make the decision. I promise you. I will make the decision and take the consequences.
The president, who hit out at leaders criticizing the plan, faulted them for doublespeak. According to President Ruto, transforming Kenya to a first world country requires tough decisions, which he'll not shy away from making.
All leaders in Kenya, they know what should be done. Everybody knows what should be done. But it never gets done. So this time around, we are going to be intentional. We are going to be deliberate because we must do it.
The government talked about privatization. They did not talk about disposal of KICC. Two distinct things.
At the same time, the head of state faulted those against Kenya Kwanza's housing plan, arguing the right to housing was not a reserve of a few. This as he urged Kenyans in diaspora to invest in the housing projects.
We need to liberate our people from the indignity of living in slums, number one. Number two, we need to get Kenyans to own a home. My intention is that we are going to double these numbers by March next year. We are going to triple them by end of next year. And in 5 years, we will have 500,000 Kenyans working, and the whole country will be a bustling construction site.
Ruto also urged the diaspora community to enhance their contribution to the development of the nation by fostering partnerships and seizing opportunities abroad.
I encourage you to leave this conference with a strong resolve to do more and earn more from the opportunities that continue to unfold as we undertake the bottom-up transformation of our economy.
According to the Central Bank of Kenya, diaspora remittances increased to 48.1 billion shillings in March 2023, a 15.5% growth from 41.7 billion shillings reported in the previous month. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mongai.
The Kenya Bureau of Standards is set to release new packaging guidelines for avocado exporters for the next season. According to the Food and Agriculture Authority, China and India have raised concern over the varying packaging of Kenyan avocado, which affects the quality of consignments.
The exporters sometimes
do cheat in terms of what goes out. They are saying they are exporting mangoes, yet inside there is also avocados. And mixing the two, definitely by the time they get to the destination, they now have some new damages, which as a result, it actually makes a big blame to Kenya instead of actually blaming the exporter.
The draft regulations require that farmers package fruits of the same size and shape in one consignment.
They will declare mangoes and put avocados, and there's no need to send raw avocados out. So we as industry, we close the market.
The Food and Agriculture Authority has opened an off-season export window to key markets, with authorities keen to bar shipment of immature fruits after China and Denmark flagged some of the Kenyan avocado consignment during last season off-season harvest.
When we were in China, they also gave us samples of immature avocados that were sent to China in December of last year. Imagine when they got from these avocados in China, they kept so that they can launch a complaint. We've addressed, since we closed sending of avocados off-season, because off-season there is high demand, so it forces farmers to take in immature avocados.
Kenya made its maiden avocado exports to India in September this year, shipping 400 kilos of the fruit to the Asian market. Benson Droba reporting for Prime Edition.
Anyen had one stroke lead on day one after shooting 74 to lead by one stroke over 3 other junior golfers. It was a tight at the top after the first round, with Kanana Muthomi, Mwanthi Gisheru, Haudri Gashora and Junaid Manji tied for second on 75. The second round was not as close as the junior golfers were now separated in the top 10 positions. Kevin Anyen was again the best player of the day with a score of 7, 2 shots better than Kanana Muthomi. Anyen led by 3 shots over Muthomi, with Mwanthi Gisheru right behind her by only 1 stroke. Haudri Gashore on 155 points was not so far off going into the last round. It was a tight fight at the top, with Kanana at 1 point closing the gap to 1 stroke. In the end, they both shot 78 as Anyen finished at the top with a score of 9 over par 225.
For me, it means a lot because I've been trying to win a lot. I've been losing 3rd place, 4th place. At least I've gotten my first win. I'm so happy here.
Kanana finished second on 12 over par 228.
Putting was, I guess, okay, but then it started becoming worse somehow. Like long putts, I was 3-putting. Like I would just leave them far, come back, my second putt I would be too aggressive.
Mwanthi Gisheru finished 3rd, but he could have done much better had he not changed his style of play. Tanish Gutha finished with 18 over to settle for 4th position, overall tied with Junaid Manji.
Economic growth is projected at 5.5% in 2023, was in 2023 and 2024. But it's also coming from a low base of 4.8% in 2022. And that, the reality of it is it adequate to ignite an economic transformation that bottom-up economic transformation anticipates? Essentially, what we're really saying is that we need to do more so that we actually have a momentum that is sustained.
There is certainty in funding coming from multilateral sources, bilateral sources, and I can also assure you that we have funding from DFIs, development financing, like TDB, AfriExim and others that we could get from the market. That's why I can say with certainty that next year we expect inflows to come in, and this should support the shilling, which is already stabilizing as a result of measures taken by central bank.
We read GDP figures, somehow because we live in Kenya, they don't seem real because Kenyans are struggling, that is the truth. But also, it also gives us some more work as the leaders, that even as the economy grows, our work is not just to report GDP, but to actually make the economy felt. And we are burning meat and oil to make that possible.
Now, what we need is, first of all, to support these young upcoming architects so they find their way, they find their footing in the industry. Then also we need to have better controls so that they are engaged. There are many areas where there is need for architectural services and they are not given. And good example is where we have development control of all the developments that come up. Those are domiciled in the counties. All the 47 counties have planning, physical planning and land use departments which look at the proposals for development and approve them. Most of those departments do not have architects, and this is an opportunity that would enable these young architects to develop their skills and contribute to society in a meaningful way.